Right, well, thank you so much for speaking with us today. Do you mind telling us a little bit about yourself and your business and how you started it?
Oh gosh, yeah, okay. My name is Adriaan Gomez. I grew up in Richmond and then lived out of Richmond for about 10 years after high school, and then we moved back when I was pregnant with our first daughter in 2015. And I stayed home with her for the first year, and I was looking for a way to kind of continue staying home with her, and knew that I liked making things and, and I hoped that I could sell them. And I actually started Beego as like a stationery business. I made cards and pillows. And then as our daughter grew, I had worked for a charter school in DC that was kind of like environmentally focused. It was like a bilingual charter school, but it also had sustainability as part of its mission. And the whole school composted, and we made our own meals and used all reusable plates. Like, it was a huge part of the school, and the way that it ran. And I had been like kind of peripherally interested in making less waste before working at that school, and then working at that school definitely made it more of like a lifestyle in terms of just making changes. But so that was kind of in my head, and with, oh, my cat is trying to kill me, with with kind of just how we were living our lives. And then as our daughter grew, having kids is just super wasteful, like diapers and snack bag, all that kind of stuff that you just make along the way for convenience's sake. And so I started still making pillows and stuff like that for my business, and then getting products like reusable snack bags and wet bags, and we did cloth diapering and stuff like that for our daughter. And then I would get stuff and not like or I would like think it was ugly, or think it didn't work well, or it would fall apart in a month, and I just got really frustrated. And I had just started learning to sew, and have basically taught myself to sew through the process of creating this business, which I don't recommend. But so I think I started making snack bags, and then that kind of turned into, once I kind of attracted an audience that was interested in reusable snack bags, people were asking me about making wet bags. And so it kind of grew from there in terms of what I was interested in kind of adding to our product line. And since then, as you can tell, like from our website and Instagram now, we definitely are not making pillows and stationery anymore. So it kind of
Mhm.
grew from there. And last year, before the pandemic, we were up to 3 employees, and we're kind of humming along, ready to grow. And then since then, it's just been really tough to keep up it, because our whole business model depended on having in-person events. And so we had to scale back, and now it's back to just me sewing and one person helping me. So we've shrunk a little bit, and then we're getting ready to grow again. But yeah, it's been fun to kind of create a business at the same time as kind of going on that journey myself of becoming more like just thinking about waste in my life, because I think it has helped me be really forgiving of other people doing the same thing. You know what I mean? Like, it's not like I'm just like, oh, it's perfect zero waster who like has my mason jar of bread tags. Like, I definitely feel like I have created a community that's just interested in little commitments that add up to a bigger change, and that it's like there's no shame or pressure or anything, that everybody's just trying the best they can.
Yeah.
That was a very long short summary.
That was perfect.
Yeah, yeah. So going back to sustainability and like your actual products, what went into your research for sustainable products? And did you face any challenges that like you were not prepared for, that you were not aware existed in the sustainability community?
Yeah, I mean, I think what I learned when I was trying to create the products was just that you're always making compromises, that there's never like this perfect, like there are very few perfect materials out there, that are like gonna decompose. Like, it's all just about like, okay, if this bag will replace, like, one of our snack bags can replace like between 600 and 800 Ziploc bags. So you're like, okay, so if this bag ultimately will like one bag of waste versus like 800 zip up, you know, like there's just all these compromises. And then beyond that, I just tried really hard to find the safest and best materials that kind of like reached the end that we needed to get. So like the waterproof lining that we use that took, and it was like I just started from nothing, and I had no friends, or, you know, like I had no connections that knew anything about this stuff. So it was a lot of Googling. But like the waterproof lining that we use is kind of like made with low impact processes and is free of all sorts of chemicals and is like safe for, it's like food safe and also medical grade, so you can like wipe it down with sanitizer. Like it has all these kind of different features, but it took a long time to like source the right stuff, and it took a lot of testing things that I didn't like, or like considering using cotton instead of waterproof, you know, like all that kind of product testing to see, because ultimately my goal is to create things that are durable and long lasting. Like that's the whole point, is that I don't, like my business model is not like making junky things that will have to be replaced in a year. Like the whole point is to have replacements for single use things that last years and years and years until you like run them into the ground and they like decompose into the fabric that they are. So it was a lot of kind of trial and error of seeing what materials made the most sense and stuff like that. But and then it's like a whole other thing as you scale up, trying to find what material you can afford and what, you know, like there's all these other considerations as you grow, just based on what is possible to do. Like I used to use all reused packaging and just like save any boxes that I had or any envelopes, and I still do that for boxes and stuff like that. But like at a certain point, order volume gets to the point where you can't be like reusing, you know, like you have to order things. So then it was like, okay, what's the most like eco-friendly and responsible packaging that I can pick? And it's just like once it gets in your head, as I'm sure you both know, you can't unthink it. So then you kind of obsess over every step. But it definitely
hard to like find that balance at first.
Yeah. I feel like when I first started thinking about stuff, I was just like, oh my gosh, we have to buy this and we have to buy this and we have to buy this. And I just wanted to like do it all at once. And since then, I think I've found a good balance of just being like, okay, like this is ugly, but I have it and I can reuse it for 50 years. So I don't need to buy like the pretty bamboo version of it, or, you know, like it's all a lot of compromises and relearning. Like it's just hard because I mean, my whole brand is based on pretty things, you know, I appreciate beauty. And so sometimes making less waste and making better choices about like the materials that I use can be hard, because I have to retrain my brain about like, okay, even if this is plastic, it'll last forever and I can use it for years and not buy like the pretty replacement for it. So I try to do that like in the practices within my business too, and like keep every single scrap. Like the only things I throw out are like teeny tiny and even then we would try to use them for like padding in the earring boxes and stuff like that too. So it definitely is easy to go off the deep end a little bit.
Yeah, it can be a very overwhelming process at the beginning, just because there's so much you can do and you feel like, oh God, I need to do this. If I do this, I have to do everything. And it's very overwhelming. And then it's actually great that you talked about like plastic and how like your bags can replace like 600 of the mini ones, because Julie and I actually just like wrote a little blog on our website about the dangers of single-use plastic. So it's great that we just talked about it, and we're also in environmental science, and we've talked about plastic and water pollution the entire year. So it's wonderful to see someone that cares so much and like is active and like has a business that revolves around this.
Yeah, I'm so glad. It's just so awesome that you all are doing this. I love that the project has continued.
Yes. So then, again, another sustainability question, but why do you think sustainability is important, and what is your motivation for including sustainability in your business? Obviously, we're high schoolers. We haven't gone to college yet, and I feel like it's very hard for teenagers to grasp the concept of sustainability is important. And, our environment isn't in the best shape and we need to do something. So like, how would you get that message across?
Yeah, I mean, I think, like I said before, like one of the big kind of life-changing things for me was working at that school, because I was like learning so many things about changes that I could make, like lifestyle and just kind of like material changes that I could make, while also teaching first graders. And that, like, nothing hammers it home more about like how we need to like get our energy together for like the younger generation than like teaching first graders how to compost, or like spending time in the woods and like appreciating how things decompose. And like, and I think having kids has done the same thing for me, where I'm just like, this is not far in the future. Like, we are already feeling impacts of this. We're going, like, in my kids' lifetime there will be huge impacts in your lifetime, like in like, it's not this abstract thing in the future anymore. Like, every day it's less and less abstract, and it's hard to ignore. I mean, even here in Virginia, I feel like we've had weather in the past few years that I've never seen in my whole life living in this area. It's just definitely is becoming a lot harder to ignore. So I think that, and I think it was interesting because I first started my business just being like, oh, I'm just going to make pretty things. And like, these are what I like to make. And I'm going to see if people will buy them. And like, some people did buy them, but I didn't have kind of like a driving force that I have now. Cause I think I just love thinking about like I wish I had started calculating at the beginning of my business, like how many things I'd sold and how many items it's replaced. Cause that would be like mind blowing. But I wish that I had started recording that, because I think even when I'm exhausted, and it's because with two kids at home, I'm like working at like this time, like this is my work time. I don't have a lot of time to get stuff done, but so it's hard to find motivation sometimes. But I think like thinking about the fact that each person that makes a purchase is like making a change, or like supporting a change that they've already made to continue not using certain plastics and reusable stuff or single-use stuff, and that like each sale that I make, I just find really motivating to think about kind of the little but cumulative impact that it's making, and just enjoying creating a community where people are excited about that, and that it's like very low pressure, like I said, but it's just like everybody's kind of like ready to go, like trucking down that road slowly but surely. And it just feels really good to have a group of like-minded people who are excited, and I try to make everything really pretty so that everybody feels more excited to get rid of those plastic bags. But yeah, definitely, I think it just got to the point where I had made those changes in my life and knew that the products that and it's such a new, I mean, even still, it's not a huge market of people who are making this stuff. Like, it's still a pretty small market. So I think the more I tried to find products and didn't find ones that I liked, I felt more of a drive to like go down this road, and just, if I was unsatisfied, just make my own. And that has gone well.
Well, that's really amazing to hear your passion for having younger people and like children learning about sustainability, because I think it would be so beneficial for younger kids to learn about it. So then it becomes more normalized and hopefully more common, because it kind of needs to be,
Yeah.
especially now in the coming years.
Yeah, having taught at that school and then seeing my daughter go through, like, she's at just like in Chesterfield County Public Schools, and I'm like, I'm sorry, where is like you did how many weeks on recycling? Like 2 days? It's not like, I definitely have gotten a little micromanaging about how absent in the curriculum that is. And I don't know, you both can attest more to if you have any education about it in like middle school and high school. I know you guys are in the class right now, but I think it definitely needs to be a part of every year of school, kind of different ways to make change. And I think it's mind-boggling that it's not more of an emphasis. I mean, my daughter alone could like teach class. I'm sure she like harasses her classmates.
I'm sure she could.
She like told a friend recently that she didn't care about the earth because she had like a Target bag, and she was like, you don't care about the planet because you're using that plastic bag. And I was like, ooh, clearly I have to work on the judgment component of this education. But yeah, I mean, each kid that we can like get on the train, better will be. Yeah. Oh my gosh.
And
It's like
with the
trying to find any
pandemic,
way to get to me.
has that affected you? How has that affected you? And has that like made it harder to be sustainable and practicing like sustainability in your business?
Yeah. I mean, it hasn't made a big difference in the way that I run my business. If anything, we're a smidge more sustainable because we gave up our studio last month. So we are in a smaller space. But I think I was definitely having a lot of angst about it at the very beginning, especially when we were ordering all of our groceries, and I had like lost control over, like, we would do most any bulk that was available for any item that we buy regularly as a grocery. We would try to find in bulk first, and like use all of our reusable bag. Like, we were really serious about it. And then to switch, our daughter has asthma, and so she's high risk, and we didn't want to go to the grocery, like it took us a long time to like feel okay going to the grocery store. So we were ordering all of our groceries, and they would pack produce, and finally I learned to like write lots of notes, but they would like pack each apple in a bag. It was just, and I would open the bags and just be like, oh my gosh, I can't do, like, it really stressed me out to just all of a sudden. And I think like we all probably feel like that this past year, where so many things that we took for granted are like out of our control now.
Definitely.
And that I just had to kind of be like, okay, like, this is just what it is right now. It doesn't mean that we're failing. It just means that like we're taking a pause. We're like driving our car way less. So like, like maybe it even, I don't even know, just like try and think about the big picture instead of obsessing over the things that you're not doing. I think sometimes help. But I mean, luckily, the biggest impact pandemic wise on the business has just been supply chain issues with our materials. That's been tough, but luckily it hasn't affected any of the methods that we use to make less waste, which has been good because at least I can control that.
Well, besides the challenges that like this from this past year and just being a sustainable business in general, has there been a moment that's been like probably your best moment of owning a business, or like something like what do you find like very satisfying about your job?
Yeah, I mean, I love the flexibility of it, because I did create this business to try and ironically have more time with my family, which has not worked out. I definitely like made the hardest job ever for myself. So don't start a business unless you want to work all the time. But I think that the past couple of years have just been really, really awesome to really kind of feel the momentum. Even this past year, even though we had a lot of kind of like on paper letdowns where we had to like reduce hours and let go of our studio and stuff like that, we still were able to grow last year without all the events through like making masks, mostly selling our reusable masks, which also made me feel good, because then it was like a lot less people using disposable masks, which I hate so much. But yeah, I think like signing the lease on our studio that we got in March of 2020, horrible timing. I mean, that month, that like January and February was just super awesome, because we kind of felt like all the things that I had dreamed about in the abstract were really kind of coming to fruition, and we had a plan. And now it's like, I think that I've realized that having to shrink a little bit and step back will ultimately be better for the business, just in terms of the sustainability, like business sustainability, in terms of making it something that I can keep going for a long time, because like this business is my third child. I don't want to I don't want to let it go. So I feel like a big responsibility to make sure it's managed well, and I think that growing in a slower way will ultimately be better. So I'm trying to focus on that this year. But yeah, it's been, I mean, it can be like, I've talked to my other business owner friends about just how it's just a roller coaster. Like, you'll go one day being like, oh my gosh, like we sold out of blah 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 collection in like 2 hours, and then like the next day, like some like ridiculous thing happens where you like post on Instagram and nobody knows it exists, you know, like something like that. We're just like up and down, up and down. Like it definitely is not a steady climb, but it's a lot of fun. And it's fun, like I was saying before, to have a business with kind of like a driving purpose behind it, because it does get me through those moments where it's a big struggle. So then I can just kind of tell myself that it's worth it because of all the change that's happening outside of the business because of the business. It is a lot of fun at the end of the day.
Yeah, that's super important to have that driving force, or else it's just like it can definitely,
Yeah.
I can see how it can be really tiring, like really
Yeah.
quick. Well, since this is going out to high schoolers, do you have any advice specifically for people our age, on how they can be more sustainable in their day-to-day lives?
Yeah, I think it can be hard, like especially when you're in middle school and high school, just because you are so aware of things that you want to change and then feel like you like your hands are tied sometimes in terms of what you're able to get access to. But I think to just, especially when you're when you start thinking about how to kind of make changes in the way that you create waste and stuff like that, it can just be so overwhelming and you just feel like a failure for like a couple months because you are all of a sudden like your eyes are open to everything that you're doing. So I would just say, like, I feel like my tip for your age group is the same as any age group, where it's just like focus on the small changes that you can make that will last a lifetime. Like if you decide, or and get your family on board, like if you're like, okay everybody, like we are cutting up these old t-shirts and we're not buying paper towels anymore, and like just get every you know, like pick one thing to have be your crusade and then like go for it, and then kind of make small incremental changes from there. Like because we it definitely can feel like you're dependent on things too. Like we use paper napkins, we use paper towels, all stuff like that, which I realized when we would throw out a trash bag, it was like half of it was like paper towels that are just like encased in plastic and sitting in a landfill. So I think choosing one thing where you're like, okay, today is the last package of paper towels that I'm going to buy, and then kind of come up with a plan to be like, this is and have it could be so tiny. It could be like, I'm going to switch to like compostable floss instead of regular, you know, like something
Mhm.
small that you have control over, that you can just decide is your thing, and then just once you've mastered that, just choose a new thing, and then tell everyone about it, and like make it, and it doesn't have to be pretty all the time. I feel like that's one thing that your age group is so awesome with, that was not a thing when I was in high school, which is like thrifting your clothes and you know, like that is like so much. I was definitely like, that was not cool when I was doing that a while ago, and now it's like much more acceptable. I think so much of how your age group is already doing life is so much like more naturally more sustainable than the generation ahead or before you. So like I think just kind of keep going on that road and tell everybody who will listen to you about why you are doing what you're doing, and eventually people will just wear down and try what you're doing.
Well, thank you so much for talking with us today. Do you want to just shout out your business and tell people where they can go to purchase things?
Yeah, my business is called Beego Handmade, Beego, and our website is beegohandmade.com. We're on Instagram and Facebook, and they're probably not all the cool places that you all are. Like, we're not on TikTok, we're not on Snapchat. We are on Instagram and Facebook, and I do lots of like giveaway. Most of what I share is on Instagram about sales and giveaways and stuff like that. But we have our summer collection. Every season we do a new collection of fabrics for the products that we make, and sometimes introduce a new product. So I will give you confidential information that we are releasing these little our new product for this season is these little like facial squares that have terry cloth on one side. So you can use these instead of like the cotton pads or anything, or wipes that
Mhm.
you would use for your face. But this is our new product. So they'll come in a set of 8. But we have summer collection releases at the beginning of July. I have mystery boxes that come out the first of each month that are like random kind of like surprise things that I make in small batches. Whoever wants a surprise nowadays, which can be fun. But yeah, I post everything on Instagram all the time. So that's the best way to keep up with us.
That's great. Thank you.
We
Yeah,
will
thank
let
you all
them
so
know.
much for doing this. It was an honor to talk to you both.